What is up, everyone? At long last, I'm finally giving in, and I'm going to create the very best case study on Amazon FBA from A to Z. We're going to call it Making a Ninja Millionaire, and you guys are guaranteed going to love it. So this is going to be the most in-depth front to back Amazon FBA tutorial available anywhere, and we are not going to waste your time at all. Gonna kick it off with step one, which is product research. So where I like to start product research is in the Jungle Scout web app. So that they have the web app and they have the Chrome extension. Both of them are very useful. People always ask me, which one should I get? For heavy periods of product research, I definitely do use the web app a lot. The Chrome extension is a one-time purchase. I got the Pro Chrome extension. It's available in the video below if you guys do want to check it out. And so these are the two pieces of software that I use most for product research. I have a huge amount of faith in Greg and his team. They have by far the most expansive database with the most accurate data of any of the competitors out there, right? AmazeOwl, Unicorn Smasher. People are always like, well, why don't you use these ones? Because they're free. Usually when you get something for free, it's free for a reason. The best data available anywhere right now for product research is available for Jungle Scout. So let's get started, guys. This is the Jungle Scout product database. And where we like to start here is by choosing categories. So I always sell in the USA market. There's some viable markets out there, Germany, the UK, Canada for the most part, but by far the most expansive, massive, huge opportunity market as of right now is the USA. People always say, Kevin, is it saturated? Is Amazon FBA saturated? We like to tell people that it is saturated so we can keep it all for ourselves, but the truthful answer is no, not at all. It never will be. Amazon is growing exponentially. There's so many different products, new product categories, bundling products together, adding value to existing products with low reviews, right? There's a ton of different ways to approach this product research. So let's talk about for a second which categories we're choosing and why, right? So some of them we like to stay away from. Automotive, baby, and beauty. These three are gated, right? If you are part of my student group or you have your own methods or want to submit the invoices, it's possible to get ungated. Gated means Amazon needs additional information to allow new sellers to sell in these categories. So I like arts and crafts, automotive, baby, beauty, right? Being gated, it kind of takes out 50% of the competitors immediately. If you are one of my students or there are ways to get ungated, usually for a one-time fee. Obviously, we have the cheapest and best option out there to do so. Beauty and personal care, we can check that one too. Cell phone and accessories, right, is very competitive. Camera and photo. Electronics have huge return rates, a lot of complexities, right? They break in transit. There's different certifications you need to go through customs for those, so I like to stay away. Books is definitely just a race to the bottom at Amazon on this point. They're fighting every single day to make the lowest possible price for consumers, and so that's not the area that we want to be in. Electronics, again, no. Grocery and food is a gated category similar to beauty, but there are ways to get ungated in it. Health and household, health and personal care. Home and garden is a great one. Home and kitchen, right? There's always going to be just an incredible amount of super random products, right? Like silicone pan holders or, garlic presses was probably the original and famous one that, doesn't really come to your head as a product that you'd want, but a lot of people out there and chefs and things do, and it was a huge success on Amazon when it was popular. That period has obviously matured, and now the environment is much too competitive to enter in at this time. But the point of product research is to catch the garlic press, catch the fidgets early, right? Fidgets is kind of a bad example because I really don't go after kind of those gimmicky, like one-time huge explosions that kind of, get super saturated very fast and end, and then you have a bunch of inventory and it's ugly, right? I like to find those long-term products that do, between $5,000 and, $17,000 a month that don't have so much revenue that people are like constantly coming in and adding so much competition and it gets crazy, but, gives you enough profit per month to make it worth your time. Office products is obviously a great one. Not obviously if you aren't an Amazon seller, but just trust me on this. Patio, lawn and garden, pet supplies is saturated for the most part, but there are some niches that are still out there to find. Sports and outdoor, tools and home. Toys and video games. Video games, I'm not sure why that one is by default is checked. Toys can be okay, but for now I'm gonna uncheck it because toys is a very fad-driven product category, and I don't really like to mess around with that. Products here, standard and oversized. Some people are scared by oversized, but I like the fact that people are scared by oversized. I like to do things differently. I don't like to follow the crowds at all. Oversized does not scare me. Yes, you do pay a little bit more in fees, but you just translate that with a higher price, and that's that. So price, let's talk about this. So just trust me here, guys. The longer you've been around FBA, you'll kind of start to realize that $13, $14, $15 is the minimum viable price you can sell a product for on Amazon FBA, because there's storage fees, you have fulfillment fees, you have the referral fee, the 15% fee that Amazon charges on all listing prices just for bringing you all the traffic, right? The reason people sell on Amazon FBA versus Shopify is because Amazon brings you so much, millions and millions of eyes for free, right? And so you pay that 15% referral fee to avoid having to pay those advertising costs if you had a Shopify site. So we're gonna go $13.98. The reason we're doing that is because we like to go a little bit less than people, because a lot of people might put 14, 15. People like whole round numbers. We're going $13.98 to try to get one step ahead of the people who realize this and go $13.99. Estimated revenue, right? 10,000 is probably what most people would put. So we're gonna put $9.90. Maybe we'll go one step further here and go $9,899 or $9,898. And so then we're looking at reviews, right? So we want to make sure that the maximum reviews for the products that we're looking at is 55. Most people put 50 or 100. I like to look at those, additional products between the 50 and 55 range category, just to get a little bit more that other people might miss. So rating, this is like the star rating, right? If you see something that has 5 stars, 4 stars would obviously be 4, right? A lot of people might put 4 or 3.75. I want to see a few more products with 3.77. So that is what we're going to do here, guys. So we're going to click search. And once we click search, it's going to, work its magic with the back end, and it's going to give us 4,329 results. From here, guys, this is where the magic happens. So we're going to take a look at some of these products. I kind of like to organize these by reviews. Right, 4,300 is actually kind of a lot of products. So let's take a quick gander actually back at our filters and see if we can cut that down a little bit. So listing quality is another important one, guys. This is an algorithm that Jungle Scout utilizes that basically gives a 1 through 100 score for the listing quality. If a listing has good pictures, has optimized bullets, has a product description, right, has the optimal number of pictures, right, if the quality of the pictures is high definition, things like that. And so let's take a look at listings that Jungle Scout has deemed have a listing quality of 73. And the reason that we are going to do 73 is because we don't like to be like everyone else and do 75, and the smarter people do 74, right? So we're going to be one step smarter than them. So that actually didn't change much at all. So let's try again. Let's go 3.48 here. Let's look for even worse reviews, and let's look for terrible quality listings, just so we can see if we can cut down that 4,300 down to size a bit. So from 4,300 we're down to 1,500. So this is a much better range. Now we're going to sort by reviews. So we're going to sort by reviews from lowest to highest. If you're seeing a product that has good revenue but very few reviews, sometimes that means that it's a brand new product and maybe on the up and up trend wise. If anybody else followed my channel kind of from the beginning when I started 5 months ago on YouTube, you'd see that live during one of my product research videos, I actually came across fidgets before they were even popular whatsoever. So let's see if we can do that again right now. So RX bars, this must be a popular new kind of Cliff Bar type product. As you can see, 0 reviews with 15,000 revenue. So they probably are either in the giveaway stage or they're conducting some type of a viral marketing campaign, like with their email list or something like that, right? So we're gonna ignore that one for now. It's not necessarily the best one, and again, it is in a gated category, which is a turn off to some people. So the Philips Norelco shaver is a definite no. Philips is a recognized brand. People are searching it by the brand name, and it's electronic. So it fits a lot of those different things that we don't want to look for. The North Face, definitely a very recognizable brand. Red Marine Algae, vegetarian capsules, right? Supplements are incredibly cutthroat category of Amazon that, anybody who's watching this or thinking about getting into the supplement category, you should definitely think about before you do, because it is very competitive, and you do need a huge giveaway budget to be able to get the momentum to get onto page one, and have those reviews to be able to, maintain that position on page one, which is where you need to be for supplements to be profitable. So cat mount earmuffs, it's 3M, very recognizable brand. Diamond polishing pads, it's definitely one that's possible. Temperature sensitive, this looks like makeup to me. I'm not sure what it is. Yeah, it looks like makeup. Water filters always kind of come in and have these huge things, but there's no, when you're creating a product, you want to create a long-term viable product. You can't really add value to a water filter. Yes, I could go and get this exact same water filter from some huge manufacturer in China, but then you have to worry about, patents, you have to worry about trademarks, branding, things like that. And it just usually comes down to the fact that there's no way to really add value to a replaceable part like this. And so I always stay away, even though I do know some people who are making money selling water filters and things like that, refrigerator replacement parts. But it's a race to the bottom, similar to books, where people are constantly undercutting each other to try to get more market share, and they're just racing to the bottom until eventually their margins are so thin. Instead, what we're looking for is a way to go premium, a way to establish that luxury brand, that Apple feel, right? Because there's a ton of different phones out there, but people still spend 5 times as much for an iPhone. And obviously that has to do with the App Store and things like that. But again, it's because of brand loyalty and because of the illusion or reality of luxury. So this might be a cool one. $240,000 for an air mattress. Let's keep going. 12-hole oyster plate. No idea what an oyster plate is, so let's take a look at that. And you kind of start to realize that the more random a product might seem to you, sometimes the better it is, because there's just so many products. And when people always ask me, Kevin, is Amazon FBA saturated? I can guarantee you that they haven't looked in the way that we look, right? Because when you know what you're doing, you know what to look for, and you know what to avoid, there's so much opportunity out there that you'd never think about, right? Like an oyster plate. I have no idea what that is. Or, some number, 1,000 cups for $108, right? And it's compostable, $26,000 a month with 0 reviews. Dry erase pockets could be an interesting one. Dryer steam kit assembly. It's an interesting one. 50-pound hot dipped galvanized smooth shank common nail. Let's take a look at that. Why not? Wilton 1184 3-axis precision tilting vise. Might be an interesting one. Diaper mate for refilled diaper genie. Sounds like a branded one. American Paper Optics, right? So this is a good example of a very event-driven or potentially seasonal, but more event-driven product, right? So there's an eclipse coming up in August, and so these products are obviously going to skyrocket before that, and then afterward, right? There's going to be a huge amount of returns for people who just wanted them for one day. Obviously, you can see this guy's doing 155,000 with 0 reviews. That must be a huge amount of giveaways, probably close to 100 or 200 a day to try to get to page one. And then once he's on page one, I'm sure he's making a large amount of profit there. But again, I'm looking for a long-term business. There's a lot of people out there who just want to get rich quick. They're going to buy the fidgets and they're going to get everything ready. And then by the time they get there, 100 other people did, and it's too saturated, and it's just not long-term. So it's not what we're about. If you're looking for the get rich, unfortunately, it's not here. There's some lighting fan, differentiated base 10 blocks. No idea what this is. Let's take a look. Right, and we'll choose a couple more, and then we'll kind of go through what we're looking for and evaluating whether or not they could be profitable. Shower curb, bar or restaurant decor plaque. Let's take a look at this, and maybe let's find one more, and then we're going to take a look at some of them, see what they look like with a little bit deeper dive, because this isn't the only part of product research. I want everybody to repeat after me and say, I will not just jungle scout and pick a product from that, because there's a few more steps excuse me, that are required to be able to be sure about a product that your initial investment is actually worth that time. King oval trampoline, so $475, kind of an expensive one. Aluminum post mount mailbox system, interesting one. Bundle motive fabrics, interesting. Some of these ones are can be interesting too, right? Like little pieces that a lot of contractors need but may not know how to get. They're always at least fun to look around at. Bathroom sink. Who's buying a bathroom sink for $600 off Amazon? Apparently a lot of people actually, so maybe I should shut up. Circulator with integral flow. Chupa glass for braking. Gary Rosenthal. Soldering mat kit with wrist strap and grounding cord. All right, let's take a look. So once you kind of find some items, let's take a closer look. So this specific item is obviously a soldering mat with a wrist strap and grounding cord. So it has one picture. This picture is not high def. You can't zoom in and actually view it. I can't even tell what this is. It looks like a cord. That looks like a freaking, I don't even know. That could be a Dalmatian for all I can tell. The actual bullets themselves are incredibly bland, right? If you want to look at good quality listings, take a look at like a garlic press by Alpha Grillers. They do a very good job with product photography. They have an incredible photographer. They understand how the private label game works. So this specific product is done very poorly. The first thing that I like to do is take what I assume is the main keyword. So that right here would be a soldering mat kit, right? And so let's go to all departments and search. So let's take a look at the entire landscape, because if you can find one product, you don't want to dive completely into it, because you could have a one-off case where one specific product is doing well exactly like this, and you can see all the other ones are $800 a month, $600 a month. All of these are very, very poor with one exception. So we're going to immediately ditch that, and it took us about 30 seconds to do so, right? And so let's take a look at the next one. So again, these diamond polishing pads. Let's do polishing pads orange. So 655 reviews is a lot, but unlike the one we were just looking at, these, some of these are actually significantly profitable. Let's take a look at the next page. When you see the first page and there's not much revenue, you're not going to waste your time and take a look at, the second and third pages, but sometimes it is worth it to extract. As you can see, 13 grand, 90. And there are ways to kind of slim this down. All right, so let's take a look at all of the ones under 55 reviews. And then we can sort by revenue, just to make this a lot easier to look at. So as we can see here, 30 grand a month, 9 reviews, 12 grand, 10 grand. There's a lot of different guys with very few reviews here, and a fair amount of revenue. So this is one that maybe we'll move on with, but I'll just leave the window open for now, and we'll take a look at the next one. So let's do mustache and smile. Okay. So as you can see, these images are much better. They're HD. You can zoom in, right? It has a little brand right here. Again, though, very poor product bullets. Definitely doesn't tell me much. Very poor product description. No HTML in there. Doesn't even look very keyword rich for their specific search terms. So let's do mustache and smile prop kit. And smile. Maybe we should just do mustache prop kit actually. If you do want to know, you're kind of looking at a product and you're wondering, what is the highest search term, you can come over to mustache prop kit. Merchant words, for those of you who don't know what merchant words is, it is a keyword tool that shows you monthly searches for keywords on Amazon. And these are estimated searches. on the only true means of getting monthly search volume, and it is a range, is with Google Keyword Planner. It's free for anyone. You have to have an AdWords account, so it's kind of annoying to sign up. But again, this is the estimated first search term. So we're going to take a look at mustache kit. Okay, and again, this is not what we originally thought, right? This is actually, it looks like for trimming your mustache. And the numbers are not particularly impressive. 500 reviews, not even 10,000. So it looks like that might be a one-off case. So we're going to cut that one. Double air mattress. I can already tell that this one's going to be a huge amount of reviews. Yeah, 6,000 reviews, 700, 1,700. Very quick to cut. You know, that must have just been showing up in Jungle Scout's web app because it was, you know, just brand new launching, was giving away a ton of units, had a huge BSR spike, which BSR, for those of you who don't know, is bestseller rank. It's how Amazon determines, you know, where to place items on their page rank. So obviously this one is selling the most units. People think it's the most valuable. Obviously they trust the 6,000 reviews even though it's only 4 stars, right? And so this one has the lowest BSR because you want your bestseller rank to be low. If your bestseller rank is #1 bestseller, that's the best, right? If it's 1,000,000 your bestseller rank, then you're probably not selling that much. So we're gonna cut this one. Obviously it's incredibly competitive. So we're gonna go here and let's type in oyster plate. I don't even know what this is. There's probably some people out there who know exactly what this is and are like, you're an idiot, so I'm sorry. Oyster grill pan. Let's take a look. So this one, you know, we can already tell it's not particularly impressive. Again, must have been a one-off case. So let's do paper cups, pack of 1,000, but again, we have to go to all departments here because sometimes people will intentionally miscategorize things for the most part, to get bestseller rank tags and other, you know, Amazon choice in a much less competitive category, and then, you know, people see that tag when they're searching in the more competitive category, and people will buy it. So it's kind of a manipulation of the product categories, and Amazon doesn't really like it. But I'll always tell you what other people are doing, and you can decide for yourself what you want to do. So 63 reviews, 6,000. Again, not particularly impressive. And I'm trying to do this live for you guys to actually make it real. So, you know, not every single time you're gonna find a winner, right? I could set it up and, you know, spend an hour and find a ton of cool products and then be like, oh wow, this one's good, that one's great. But, you know, I'm trying to be as real as possible. So, you know, they're not always gonna be that great, but it's just kind of, you know, the grind of product research, which is not that grindy at all because I actually kind of enjoy it. Reusable. Let's do dry erase pockets. I'm not sure what a pocket is in this case, but so one thing that I'll just continue to kind of, you know, point things out as we go. It's good to see all of the PPC slots used. So sponsored, when it says sponsored here, sponsored, it means people are paying. Somebody is paying Amazon $1 or $2 per click. When people actually search dry erase pockets, they're showing up, and then if I click on this specific listing, they'll have to pay Amazon for that click onto their listing. So let's run Jungle Scout here. Obviously, it's a little slow right now. Here we go. So, do the markers themselves. Try erase pockets. Wow, so I mean, this one is definitely interesting. I'm not sure why it's showing all of them twice, but let's extract the next page, see if there's anything else to work with. But there's some impressive numbers here. I mean, right, there's over 200. These look like the markers themselves, yeah. So we'll leave this one for now and move on to the next one. Hot dipped galvanized smooth shank. Let's see if we get anything for this in merchant words. It seems like a very long term. Let's do smooth shank. Go into like the prison Amazon section. So I'm not even sure what we would search here, but it's a 50-pound common nail. Let's try that. There's a ton of stuff here. I can already tell this is not going to be a great one. Yeah. So a one-off case again. Let's do tilting vise. As you can see, the sponsored posts are filled here on the right. Again, not very impressive. Place value mats. Base 10 blocks. So I'm not sure what this is, but it looks like it is a patented type product. So we're going to stay away from it. Let's go decor plaque. Some very low reviews on these main ones. Alright, so again, not a great product. This is kind of an important thing to think about, right? So we've seen a few products now. We've used the Jungle Scout web app to kind of narrow things down, to be looking in the right places, and we've struck out, right? So we struck out on a number of different products in a row. It's very important to always kind of keep the mentality that no matter what, you are going to find a product. There are amazing products everywhere out there available. Never let yourself kind of get down about not being able to find products. They are there. You just have to keep on searching. Sometimes if it takes 10 to 100 hours to find a product, if you think about it on a cost benefit scale, if it takes you 100 hours, right, we've been looking for less than one. If it takes you 100 hours and you make $3,000 profit per month, right, forever pretty much, because kind of the whole purpose of Amazon FBA is to do the work up front and then kind of reap the benefits for many, many months or years to come. If you spend 100 hours on it, that equates to a ton of money per hour. So don't ever let yourself get down is the moral of my story. We are going to find something. It's just not going to be this one, because we're never going to settle for a product just because we're getting impatient. We're never going to invest in a product unless it's the perfect product to do so. So let's take a look at the next one. Schluter Curdy board, shower curb. So this is a random seeming one. Maybe the Amazon gods and Lord Bezos are gonna shine down on us for this one. Let's take a look. So a shower curb. All right, we're starting to see some reasonable numbers here. Wow. Okay, so 62,000 with 150 reviews is quite good. 13,000 with 19 reviews is quite good. 9 with 12, 18,000 with 10 is amazing. Let's take a look at some more of these. $47,000 per month with 5 reviews. That's absolutely unbelievable. 375,000 with 26 reviews. Oh my gosh. Okay, so here we go, guys. So literally right as I said that, our next product is looking very interesting. So let's take a look at a few more. Extract the next page. All right, so incredibly low reviews here. Enough differentiation in the brands. The price point is a little bit higher than what some people might be comfortable with, but that's okay with us. We don't want to copy everyone. We kind of want to do our own thing. So let's run a quick filter here. Maybe 5,000 in revenue with 51 reviews. So here's some cool ones. So it's literally a 1-inch clear acrylic frameless shower threshold for $20. So this is a perfect impulse buy range pricing. This looks like, let's take a closer look at a couple of these. So $138 bundle pack. So these kind of look like maybe things that contractors might buy who are like building out showers or something like that. Let's look at a frameless shower threshold. So we have some PPC, as we can see here, which is always a good sign that people are spending money to, get some clicks and that it's worth it for them in some way. So over 12,000 reviews here, or sorry, 12,000 in revenue with 64 reviews. Here's the same one we were looking at. So not, hugely impressive here, but definitely something to always investigate. Barrier-free shower. $3,570. So that one doesn't look particularly related. Shower curb. I bet shower curb is a... And right, I don't know anything about this. Obviously, I'm not a contractor, but with a little bit of research, just even only using Jungle Scout, you can get a lot of information. Let's see what's happening over here for shower curb. 9300 shower curb ramp, curtain rod. Right, this is obviously, all the time that you're doing this, you're always thinking, how can I add value? How can I do this? You can see with shower curb, there's a lot of complementary keywords here that you could make bundles with. Maybe it's a shower curb plus a ramp. Maybe it's a curb shower plus the curtain rod plus the curb kit, right? All different types of combinations here. And when we're looking at these, right, so a 2-pack, I think we just had this one open. It's a 2-pack. Let's see if there's, okay, so here we go, frequently bought together. So this is perfect for bundling. And so it looks like it's a quick pitch kit, a pre-pitch standard shower installation kit. So this is basically building a shower for the most part, at least the basin, for $120. Which appeals to a lot of do-it-yourself type people. It appeals to contractors building these out and charging premiums, right? Buying them from a very cheap kind of pricing through Amazon. Not a great set of reviews here, so maybe there's something that we can do to kind of, create a better overall product. Dovetail fittings did not fit close enough together. They had to be cut and tie wire to stabilize product for installation. Good idea, poor execution. So, we'll definitely save this one. It's an interesting one for sure. So we ended up getting 3 interesting products, right? And so we are going to quickly add all of these to our cart. Let's choose the best one according to Jungle Scout to add to our cart here. So we have 33,000 monthly monthly revenue with only 9 reviews. So we're going to add this one to cart. Okay. Then we're going to do the same thing here for the reusable dry erase pockets. Office products. Great price range. Some of them are a little bit low. You want to kind of be at that 15 range when you're selling things on Amazon FBA, just because of fees, fulfillment fees, referral fees, things like that. It kind of makes the profit margin worth it. Some of the products I sell are, in the 15 range, and we still manage to get, around a 60-65% profit margin on those products. But in order to do that, you have to have incredibly cheap cost of goods sold and ship on a large enough scale to make the cost per unit for shipping cheap enough to kind of achieve that economy of scale. So it looks like this one, 25,000 with 36 reviews. Looks like this one's probably the best. So a set of 10. Number 1's bestseller. Great price, $14.99. So we're going to add this one to cart. And then the last one, we're going to go to all departments. I'm going to go shower curb. I mean, some of these numbers are absolutely insane. 62 grand with 53 reviews. $47,000 per month with 5 reviews. So this is like a full this is a full product, right? And it's important to think about this for a second, because people on Amazon are willing to pay a premium if they don't have to do the additional work. And what I mean by that is somebody will pay $350 for all of the things you need to create a shower, versus, let's say there's 10 different things you need to create a shower for $350. So that'd be $35 per piece. So people will pay $350 for the entire thing rather than buying all 10 different products, for $175 total. I've seen it with my own eyes. People are willing to pay double the cost for a fully finished product than to find the lowest price for each individual product, because they might think they might miss something. They assume that you've done the work for them and given them every single thing that they need, kind of to be able to create this final product, right? And so there's only one picture here. Again, not high def, definitely room for improvement. And so we'll take a look at this one as well. And so that's kind of how I use the Jungle Scout web app. Let's go into a couple other ways, because it's not just the Jungle Scout web app. People sometimes tell me, so many people looking at the Jungle Scout web app, aren't we all kind of looking at the same things? And the answer is yes, if you use the same filters, right? So I always suggest to my students, play around with what I'm showing here. Add your own little twist. There's a bunch of things you can do looking at product categories that I might ignore. Maybe setting the review barrier to 1 or maybe a little bit higher rather than having those 0 reviews, just because you kind of know that it's been around at least long enough to get a review, so it's not like a brand new product that is a little bit less tested. There's always different things that you can do to be playing around with this, to make sure that you're doing enough differently that you're not just all kind of looking at the same thing, because this kind of started to happen. I saw it in some of the larger Facebook groups where everyone was kind of finding like the anglized ruler and things like that. So make sure that you're not just copying, whether it's me or Greg or any of the other people who are out there, who are really well versed in product research. Use your own creativity and experience to search in different enough ways to kind of differentiate that. And so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to go Amazon bestseller home and kitchen. And so another cool way that you can kind of utilize Amazon in a clever way is to take a look at their bestsellers lists. So this is kind of the overarching category. So home and kitchen is a huge category. So as you can see, 13,000 reviews. Obviously, that's much too high to ever be able to, reasonably compete in that specific section. But there are cool little things that not as many people know about here. So new releases is obviously a good one, especially movers and shakers. So for those of you who understand kind of how the product launch works, and the A9 algorithm kind of uses sales velocity and a number of other factors to assign page rank to specific products on Amazon. As you can see here, this Kitchonics heat-resistant silicone barbecue gloves had a 286,000% increase in their sales rank. So that means that, over the last 24 hours, this particular product has seen an increase of, obviously almost 300,000%. Normally that happens because these larger companies are doing giant giveaways, going like 97, 98, 100% off, or 99% off, excuse me, and passing it out to huge groups of reviewers or people on their email lists and things like that. And so this is how they gain that additional viewership by Amazon customers, so they get seen by a lot more customers, and they assume that if they can get onto that page 1, that the quality of their product and image and listing can keep them there, because normal Amazon shoppers aren't going to look past page 1 if they see the product that they are intending to buy, right? And they find that through these keywords. And so if you get to page 1, you have a nice listing with enough reviews, you're going to be able to maintain that momentum and stay there, because most Amazon customers will just buy your product without even looking any further. So another cool trick that I kind of like to do while I'm here is, instead of kind of jumping to the 1 through 20, which are generally the most competitive, I like to look at 81 through 100, right? So as we can see here, there's some more reasonable type products. So we see a 27 review here. We see a 450, right? But these are generally just still too high. So instead of going just, instead of staying just in the home and kitchen category, what I like to do is go a second level into the subcategory. So this is the main category. These are all of the subcategories. So let's do kitchen and dining, for example. And then you can see there's a second tier subcategory. So home and kitchen is the main, kitchen and dining is the subcategory, and these are all the additional subcategories. So these are still bestseller lists. They still have new releases. They still have, the most wished for, which means people are adding these products to their wish lists. They still have gift ideas. I always preach to my students, you definitely want to, for the most part, have items that are giftable in some way. Just because of the taboo of returning a gift, it really decreases your overall return percentage. People will generally pay a little bit more for a gift just because it's the spirit of giving rather than just buying a product for yourself. Sometimes you kind of look for the cheapest product when you are buying it for yourself, and not as much so when you are giving a gift. So let's see if we can find anything interesting with few enough reviews. Paper plates, right? These are more like wholesale, not as much private label. People aren't necessarily caring about the brand of paper towels as much. So again, still too high. So let's go additional. Let's go, one or two additional subcategories. Storage and organization. Let's try this one. So these are going to be like meal preps and Tupperware. Again, this is pretty competitive overall category. You can see a lunch bag tote, a yum box, paper towel holder. It's an interesting one. Let's take a look at that. 3-piece dish rack set. Might be interesting. So as I'm doing this, I'm just looking through the top 100. If I see anything that kind of catches my eye, obviously I'm not going to go after anything that has 1,000 reviews or 500 reviews. I generally like to look for products that have, the maximum 150 to 200 reviews, but even that high, I like to see a number of different competitors on page one for that specific product with less than 50 reviews. So let's say that, we were selling food containers. If I saw this one and it had 10 reviews, right, and then I typed in food containers, and it's the one product on page one that has 10 reviews and everybody else has 1,000, obviously it's not, one that I'd want to enter, which is why it's so important after you find, any specific product on Jungle Scout, however you find it, to know what the main keyword of that specific product niche is, and then search that keyword in the normal Amazon search bar in any department. Take a look at that first page, right? You want to see half the people on the first page having less than 100 reviews. You want to see sales kind of spread out amongst all the sellers, not concentrated in the top seller, and things like that. So let's do food storage, right? And there's so many different categories here, guys. I mean, it's just ridiculous when people tell me, I've been searching all this time and I can't find anything. I mean, I could go through every single one of these, and I guarantee eventually I'd be able to find something that's interesting. Right, so bread boxes. We're starting to see some of the reviews that we are more so interested in. Pretty much everyone eats bread. Not everyone, but a lot of people do. I don't like making generalizations, but I eat bread. And so, a lot of people like having bread boxes. Not particularly impressive numbers, but again, a lot of room on the reviews. But probably not high enough to be interesting in. So let's go back to kitchen and dining. Let's go into home brewing and winemaking. Let's do racking and storage. So here again is more so the type of review numbers that we're liking to see. This might be too specific of a category, and then the revenue is not going to be particularly high, which we see right there. So let's go back to kitchen and dining. Let's do kitchen utensils and gadgets. All right, so there could be some cool stuff and gift ideas here. All right, the whole silicone phase really hit Amazon hard with all the baking trays. Yeah, here's the baking mat. right? It was kind of the original garlic press, the kind of hugely popular, very profitable item that cost almost nothing to make, was incredibly cheap to ship, and was selling, for a very profitable margin. Um, Avocado slicer, it's random, but there's a ton of reviews for it. Pizza stone with rack. It's pretty random. Let's take a look at that. I'm gonna do it in a new window though. Pizza stone. So we see a lot of sponsored ads here. It's usually a pretty good sign. So there's absolutely a ton of these being sold, but we do see, some pretty high reviews here. But we see people as well on page one that have, very low reviews with a reasonable revenue. So let's see if we can filter this down a little bit. Maybe let's do 4,000 or higher on revenue. 51 reviews. So we see a couple here. Pizza stones, right? Some round. Also the wooden ones. And this has a dual appeal to both, avid pizza makers and also pizza restaurants. So we could take a look at some of these and see, wooden pizza peel. So there's a bunch of different options here. We could take a look at, the best one on this specific page as far as revenue versus reviews goes, and then see maybe, what they're doing better than everyone else. It's probably this one that we were originally looking at. We can also see what people are buying together, and potentially make a bundle. But this specific product is not particularly impressive from a revenue perspective. So we're gonna go to paper towel holder. Let's see if we can get lucky here. So there's a ton of reviews for this specific product, but it's always worth looking at the product itself. Let's take a look at dish rack. I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of reviews for these as well. Right, so an add-on item, it's the super cheap option, Amazon choice, right? 650 reviews. OXO is a larger company on Amazon, so probably wouldn't want to directly compete against them. So let's abandon both of those. Unfortunately, they didn't work out. So we are going to go back to the best sellers and take a look. Thermometers and bar and wine tools. Let's try bar and wine tools. So we see in the number 2 spot here, champagne sparkling wine bottle opener, I assume. The original vacuum van. A wine carafe. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but it's an interesting one. You'd have to be careful with shipping for this, right? Large glass items like this are definitely more breakable in transit versus things like, fidget spinners or silicone baking mats. Hand of the King bottle opener. So this is playing off, a very popular TV show, Game of Thrones, which most of you probably have heard about, which can be, sustainable for a time, and with enough fanfare that Game of Thrones obviously has, it's definitely an interesting one. Let's take a look at this one. So there's a couple interesting ones on bar and wine tools here. Steel cocktail strainer. It's an interesting one. Ice bucket. Very random. Army man bottle opener. 6-piece coaster set in the form of a cactus. Wow, some of the stuff people sell on Amazon is just crazy. More Hand of the King. This is a pretty cool one. This is an example of a very giftable product, which is going to hit on multiple fronts, right, from a keyword perspective. Because not only are people searching whiskey stones, they're also searching, gift for grandpa, gift for like whiskey lover, gift for dad, gift for retiree, things like that, where, you're always trying to kind of hit on multiple fronts from a keyword perspective, so you can get those kind of complementary sales without competing directly against other sellers with the exact same keywords. So it could be an interesting one. Bartender Premium. Right, so this is a good example of a bundle. Let's take a little bit closer look at some of these. So a wine carafe with oak stopper. That's pretty cool, right? Wow, it's beautiful image. Very poorly made listing. No keywords in the title, no bullets, only one image, and it's still doing quite well from a sales perspective. Let's try wine carafe. So as we can see, right there, wow, it's a very beautiful image here. As you can tell, this is the dominating post, probably because of the product photography that they are utilizing being much stronger than their competition. So we're going to also look at wine decanter, because it looks like carafe and decanter might be synonyms. And the wine lovers out there are probably laughing at me because I don't know much about wine, but I do know a lot about product research. So as we can see, there's significantly stronger sales for wine decanter, definitely spread out. So this might be a good one that you'd want to take a look at, you know, from a bundling perspective, seeing what's bought together, maybe throw in like a corkscrew, or you can bundle it with a wine connoisseur ebook or something like that. So we probably want to just run Jungle Scout on here, choose the highest performing one with the lowest amount of reviews that we think that we could add value to in some way, and kind of take it from there. So it looks like the $8,000 with 31 reviews looks to be the most enticing. So we're going to add this one and move on. So Hand of the King style bottle opener. Let's see if we can find anything else related to this. So like Hand of the King. Let's just try Hand of the King. So it looks like we see a couple different things here. Right, realistically, there's only a few that are doing well, but $6,000 a year or a month, excuse me, with 34 reviews, $5,000 a month with 59 reviews. They're interesting, right? I mean, there's things that we could do here. Let's see if there's anything frequently bought together. Because $6,000 without even being in organic position 1 means that people are interested in both a silver and gold version of this. So frequently bought together, it looks like people are buying Game of Thrones playing cards and Game of Thrones House Stark tournament banners. So again, very easy here to bundle with some type of banner, house banner, or poster that you could put on your wall, or just some other gear, perfect barware man cave gift. So there's a lot of different options here. Let's go ahead and add this one to cart. It is interesting for sure. Alright, collection coaster set. So this one obviously is too low for a price. #1 bestseller, so people are interested in coaster sets. As we can see here, a prominent headline ad. We see all 4 spaces taken up in the PPC horizontal slot as well as vertical, which is a great sign. It means people are buying a ton of coasters. And as we can see here, there are some in the top, or excuse me, in the page 1 that do have the type of numbers that we'd like to see. Don't fuck up the table, please. So $22,000 with only 22 reviews is very good. Obviously, it fulfills multiple keyword sets. And what I mean by that is when you say don't F up the table, not only is that fulfilling coasters or set of coasters, it's also a novelty gag gift, a gift for a bridal shower, or maybe not necessarily a bridal shower, but some type of gift that you could give to someone in like sort of a novel way. So let's extract one more page here and see if we can filter these down to kind of make more sense of this. When there's a ton of different products like this, and there's sales spread out among all of them, it is obviously a good sign, but at the same time, it's a little bit overwhelming to kind of sift through, which is why the Jungle Scout filter makes things a lot easier to kind of take a look and narrow things down. So Gold Edge coasters, right? Great price point, 5-piece set with a typewriter. Great little gift item. Extremely inexpensive. $35 for Don't F Up the Table. These are all interesting ones for sure. $12,700 with only 53 reviews. I'll probably add both of these to my cart just so we can see, actually how many sales they're getting, because it's important to, it's probably the most important thing to see with your own eyes actual sales. The Jungle Scout product tracker does normally do a pretty good job. It helps me kind of narrow things down quickly, but I still like to see with my own eyes using the good old-fashioned iTrack 909 method. So let's do cocktail strainer. So there's multiple in the hundreds here. We see some big name brands for sure. The revenue just doesn't really seem high enough to go into this niche, and the reviews just seem too high. So we're gonna cut that one from the old list. Let's try stainless steel ice bucket. Let's just try ice bucket at first, and then if we see something we like, maybe we can narrow it down a bit further with the stainless steel ice bucket. This is definitely interesting. There's a ton of different sales. They're very dispersed. All the reviews for the most part are under 100, which is pretty much exactly what you are wanting to see. Again, we see OXO and some other larger brands here, but this is the type of competitive landscape. And what I mean by competitive landscape is when we're searching the highest volume keyword, we can pretty much make the assumption that ice bucket is the highest keyword here. Yep, by far. And ice bucket lid, right? So some don't come with lids apparently. A seat, maybe something that you put it in. Black ice bucket. I didn't see any black on that first page, right? So the opportunities are really endless here. Merchant Wars not only does a good job of reconfirming whatever you assume the highest volume keyword is, it also gives you some complementary options, as far as bundling or choosing, a black ice bucket, for example, a portable ice bucket, maybe an ice bucket kit, a small, large, jumbo. All these different type of, infinite iterations are the things that separate, a quality product that has the longevity that you're looking for and more of a short-term, like exact copy. We never, ever, ever want to do an exact copy, guys. It's just not a long-term option. So again, let's filter down here a bit. So we can see here, ice bucket insulated stainless steel dual wall. It's almost $7,000 with 50 reviews. Clear ice bucket. This is an interesting one. None of those numbers were particularly impressive though. Let's go clear ice bucket, and we'll also try black ice bucket and see if anything looks more interesting. A party tub. Ooh, a big square party tub. This is an interesting product for sure. It's kind of like it's basically just like a cooler, but it has a lot of volume. It's not very breakable, but it has a lot of volume, which means the FBA fee is large, which means the shipping from China, if that's what you're sourcing it from, is large. But let's try party tub. And I'm trying to do this live for you guys so you can see kind of the thought process that goes into it, right? Every single thing that we're seeing is giving us an additional idea of a way that we could potentially add value in this niche, or to determine whether or not the overall landscape is worth kind of injecting yourself into, or whether it's saturated. Beverage tub and serving tray. All right, so 5 reviews here with $15,000 a month. and a $76 price range. Beverage tub and serving tray. Let's try beverage tub. Okay, so here we go. We see some big numbers here. A few reviews though, right? But these are just the tub. It doesn't actually have the serving tray. And so we see somebody who kind of capitalized on that and created not only a beverage tub but also a serving tray with the kind of the wheelbarrow effect, which is definitely interesting. Very unique product. One that I would definitely track with only 5 reviews. You could come in, add even just a small amount of value or differentiation, maybe better photos, design the overall product in a clever way, and you'd be fine. So let's try one more with the black ice tub. Was it called an ice tub or an ice bucket? Black ice tub. You can kind of tell that this one is probably going to be a bit lower, which it is. Let's try bucket because I think that was the actual word. Right, so here we go, $44,000 a month with 415 reviews. Probably not one that we're gonna want to compete in. This is a very unique product. 6-piece green coaster set with flower pot shaped holder. Probably not on that one. Alright, let's go Whiskey Stones. And again, Whiskey Stones might be a good one to take a look at in Merchant Words. So basically what Merchant Words does is it uses Amazon's auto search fill, right? And then it basically uses an algorithm to reverse engineer all of the different autofills based on each first letter that you input after the space. So if I put whiskey space A, it would fill it in. Whiskey space B, it would fill it in, right? And then it would basically, through the BSR for the specific product, again, using an algorithm, reverse engineer the monthly search volume for it. So people are looking for Scotch, whiskey, as if chilling stones have any differential whether or not it's for whiskey or Scotch. Custom whiskey stones could be a cool one. But let's take a look at the highest volume, which is whiskey stones itself. So we see some relatively good numbers here. This is the type of product that would be very giftable. You'd put in Whiskey Stone's gift set. This would be at least a 10 times multiplier during Q4, probably during Father's Day as well. So it would be something that you wouldn't necessarily need to have huge sales year round for, but just those 2 kind of larger dates would be very, very profitable for you. So these are metal. It's kind of a cool one. Titanium, gold plated. Right, this one looks like it comes with a little serving handle, granite, right, all different companies here, which is good to see. So this looks like an interesting one for sure. Comes in a sweet little box, right? What are people buying it with? The Ultimate Bar Book, right? So that's a perfect opportunity for an ebook, right, guys? Like we could make an infographic with uses of whiskey stones. With recipes for whiskey and how to make whiskey drinks. We could always put in a larger box, right, kind of like a rectangle with the whiskey stones on one side with a set of 2 tumblers or whiskey glasses or any number of things, right? So let's definitely add this one. It's an interesting one. And then you can also go novelty, right? I've seen ice cube trays in the shape of a Death Star do incredible numbers, especially during Q4. You can make whiskey stones in whatever shape you want, whether it's the super novelty as genitalia, or you're going novelty in some way, whether it's Game of Thrones or some other cult type product that has the longevity and has the fans and the attention to kind of attract that customer interest that you need. So premium Boston Shaker barware set. So let's try bar set. You can see a ton of different ads here. We do see some low reviews, which is obviously good to see, right? And we're seeing a lot of volume here too, so this could be a very interesting one as well. So let's look at a couple more pages here. Definitely an interesting one. Great price point, as you guys can see, right? A ton of different brands. It's not dominated by any one person. We see a bunch of different people making very nice numbers. The highest reviews I see here is, right, and this one isn't even very good revenue. The highest one I see with good revenue is 377, but for the most part, 123 and 130, which are both very conquerable numbers. So let's extract one more page, and then we'll filter this down a little bit, try to see if we can, take a look at whichever one might be the most interesting for us to base our base idea off of, and then add value through some type of bundle, or going after maybe adding value to the product in some way based off those negative reviews. That's actually a lot of products. So this obviously is a very interesting one, right? We do see a $10,000 one here with only 9 reviews. We see 10,000 here with only 15 reviews. And these are beautifully done products, right? And we can definitely add to these in our own way. It's $26,000 with 60 reviews. It's definitely an interesting one as well. Alright, so this is a 5-star average, exceptionally made listing. Right, very well done bullets. Obviously very well done pictures and packaging and images. Obviously these people know what they're doing. And again, the ebook bundle. It looks like people are actually purchasing hardcover books with these. So you could bundle with a hardcover. I don't know if they're doing that because there aren't ebooks available, or because the type of person that likes these bar sets also likes kind of that hardcover feel. But this is definitely an interesting one. Let's add this one to cart. Again, very very well made listing. They could do a better job here with the title, putting some more keywords here. The bullets are a little short, right? They didn't put an apostrophe here, or it's converting because they have it in HTML and they're not actually typing it in to the Amazon bullet point boxes. Beautifully boxed. So these guys are brand registered. As you guys can see, their enhanced brand content is here. Done well, adding additional pictures with bolded kind of exposés of the additional perks you get with this. But again, it's an interesting product. It might be one that we could add value to with a bundle, with a recipe book that's well done. And again, this is about using your experience, right? Because if you have experience, if you're a ex-bartender, or you're passionate about drinks in general, or you know a lot about alcohol, this is the perfect type of product for you. So I'm actually going to add all 3 of this. This is a very interesting one that we did find. So that is kind of enough products for us to look at for right now. So the next thing that we'd kind of do is we'd evaluate our cart. And how we do that is we'd run some initial calculations on profitability. How we would do that is with the Amazon FBA fee calculator. So the Amazon FBA fee calculator is a cool little service that Amazon does provide, where you can put any specific ASIN into the fee calculator itself. And I'll give a little preview here. We'll go into a bit more detail on just one, right? I'm not going to bore you guys and do the full calculation on all 12, but we will run the fee calculation and profitability calculation on all 12 products, and then we'll kind of compare how many you're selling per day, right? Because people always tell me or ask me, Kevin, how many products per day should the products that we're trying to source be selling? And the answer to that is that's not the question you should be asking, right? The question you should be asking is, how much profit per day should we be looking for? Because if a product sells 1 unit per day but makes 500 profit off that 1 unit, obviously it's much better than a product selling $400 a day and only making $1 per unit, because you're making $100 more in profit selling one than selling 400. So the way that we need to do this is see how many are selling per day, right? Let's say these whiskey stones are selling 10 units per day, making 10 profit, right? That's $100 a day. If, for example, something else in our cart is, the bar set, say it's selling 10 a day but only making $9 profit per unit, it's $90 profit per day rather than that 100. So, if both of them have nice competitive landscapes and are making, that 90 to 100 profit range, that gets us into the $3,000 profit per month range that, kind of makes it worth it. Obviously, we want more towards 5 or 10,000 in profit per month for these products, but 3,000, it starts to add up very quickly, because if you can source, one product making $100 a day, that's $3,000 profit per month. And then once you get two, that's all of a sudden $6,000. And then, once you get to 10, that's $30,000 profit per month, and which looks very good compared to, the six-figure salary where you're really only making, after taxes and everything, $3,000 every 2 weeks, or, $6,000 kind of after all the taxes and everything is taken out into your bank account, versus the $30,000 a month that we're making if we do get up to that 10 product mark, which actually happens a lot faster than you might think. So let's take a look here at these products. We're going to run through one of them kind of all the way through, how to fill out the Amazon FBA fee calculator, a few other things that we want to look at just to make sure that things kind of are kosher. So let's do this one as an example. So we can just grab the ASIN here. If we want to go into the product tracker, we can just run it really quick here. So we can see from the product tracker in Jungle Scout, and this is the web app, guys, we can see that it's selling on average about 6 per day. So if it's selling 6 per day and they're priced at $29.99, then we can come in here and type in, the same ASIN. And I'm doing this fast, guys, because I just want to show you kind of how to do it. We obviously go into so much more detail in the course, obviously in the product research module. There's so much more detail. It's all very, very easily explained and very, articulately explained. I just want to give kind of a complete rundown, not complete, but I want to give a rundown showing, the basics of product research, just so people out there, who don't have the budget to afford, joining the Ninja family, can still be enabled to quit their jobs and leave their 9-to-5s behind them forever, because that's, my ultimate life goal. So we enter the item price here in Amazon fulfillment, ship to Amazon, and cost of product, right? So how do we get the cost of product? So we come over to Alibaba, and we can just put in bar set. Right, because this is our main keyword. You can find it from merchant words if you want confirmation that bar set is the highest volume. Bar stools set, right? That's not what we're looking for. We are looking for the bar set, which has almost 105,000 per month. So if we come back into here, we can see that Alibaba, there's probably a ton of manufacturers that offer these things. This one looks somewhat like what we're interested in, right? $1 to $10, and we'll go a lot into a lot more detail in the next section of the Amazon Millionaire case study, or excuse me, the Amazon Ninja Millionaire case study, to show exactly what filters we're looking for in Alibaba, how we choose specific manufacturers, right? How to leverage these prices that they show down, how to get these minimum order quantities down, so it's not as much risk up front, and we can kind of test the waters before committing to 1,000 sets. So we're just going to take a complete guess here, between 1 to 10 a set. We're going to go ahead and just put 5. And it's normally people will always tell me, but Kevin, you said in this video that you can estimate shipping by, just taking 100% of the cost of goods sold for a product. This is a complete estimate. It has almost, it's a complete estimate. So I'll just say that one more time. It's a complete estimate. But I found, sometimes that if you can get a cost of goods sold at 5, you can estimate that the ship to Amazon cost is also 5. So we'll obviously be able to get much more accurate metrics here once we kind of reach out to a few suppliers, and we'll show you how to find the best suppliers in the world and how to get the very, very lowest prices for them in the course, and we'll preview it in the next module, or the next session of the Amazon Ninja Millionaire case study. But the cost of product you can get from your Alibaba manufacturers, and the cost per unit of shipping you can get from reaching out to your freight forwarders, which I do share in the student group. The actual freight forwarders I use, their personal email contacts, and they're the cheapest and the best in the business, right? There's a lot of people out there who will just kind of use the first freight forwarder that they find in the U.S. They generally charge 200 to 300% more than some other freight forwarders that have taken me kind of a long time to find. So after we kind of have these shipped to Amazon and cost of goods sold numbers we can calculate here, and so this will also include the Amazon selling fees, right, which is the referral fee, which is 15% of your overall price. So if this was $300, it would take 15% of that. If it was $1, it would take 15% of that. The fulfillment by Amazon fees is kind of how much it takes for Amazon to actually package it and ship it out to the customer, and the amount of monthly storage fees. So the fulfillment fees and the storage fees. And then after all that, cost of goods sold, fulfillment by Amazon fees, referral fees, and cost of product, we do see that we're making about $10 profit per unit. And then we multiply that $10 profit per unit by the 6 units per day over a 30-day average, and we get a $60 profit per month. And so the last kind of couple things that I like to do just to make sure is to take a look at Google Trends. So Google Trends tells you kind of whether or not a product is generally seasonal. As we can see here, it does have a huge spike in Q4, as would be expected. It is a very giftable item, so I would expect a huge explosion during Q4. Again, maybe for Father's Day, but definitely for Q4. So that 6 units per day might skyrocket to 60 units or even 100 units per day. And when you're selling 100 units per day at 9 or 10 profit per, that very quickly becomes $1,000 profit a day, which is how you get into the Ninja Hall of Fame. So that is kind of a full, for the most part, summation of how to do product research on Amazon. So I'm going to take a closer look at the 12 that we kind of filtered down through in our product research session of the Ninja Millionaire course, the Ninja Millionaire case study. And so I'm going to take a closer look at all of these, and I'm not actually going to reveal which one of these products we are going to focus on for the duration of the case study until I'll probably announce it on the next session. So it'll give me kind of a 7-day head start to get sourcing and to get these products kind of on their way to the USA, which will give me a head start against anyone out there who might want to also move into this niche. And so I will reveal what the product is in our next exciting session of the Amazon Ninja case study. But for now, I hope that helped you guys, right? We showed you a bunch of different ways to kind of go about doing product research. This is really just scratching the surface. There are so many more advanced ways to make this process even shorter, right? To really find these super high margin products in a very efficient way. But this is a good way, for anyone out there to kind of get their feet wet. The more people that we get into, the entrepreneurial spirit, the better for me. And so we will see you guys next time in our exciting session 2 of the Amazon FBA Ninja case study. And I can't wait. I'll see you guys then.